I wondered why it felt like so long since I set foot into Harrington Academy. It had not been long at all in reality, but perhaps not attending lessons made my schoolmates feel similarly. They cooed and coddled me, helping me however they could when I was even modestly lost. And though I made my return, Holmes and Watson did not. I behaved as if everything were normal, of course. I would never wish to cause undue worry for everyone. But when the time for lunch arrived and their seats remained empty, that uncomfortable murkiness dared to well within my chest again. It became too much to pretend, so I made my way to the courtyard for some privacy. Upon my arrival, someone very unexpected was waiting for me. Hudson? Hudson, oh no, she's getting us embroiled.
Emily! Something terrible's happened!
What is it, Hudson? It's unusual to see you here. Something had riled Hudson quite splendidly, enough for her to run all the way here with barely any breath to spare.
It's Holmes! He'd been given a letter this morning, you see. As soon as he read the thing, he dashed out straight away. The officer on guard at the door made to stop him, naturally, but Holmes set about him awfully good with a solid punch, and then he...
It's not like him to lose his composure to such an extent. Do you know the contents of the letter?
He didn't show me. He said not to tell you anything, too, but I...
There. Thank you for telling me. I stroked Hudson's head as one would to a younger sister. Do you have any idea what fell out of the letter, though? Did Watson not go with him?
Well, in the letter, there was this.
Hudson revealed a wrapped white handkerchief from her pocket. As she opened it, I thought my heart would stop.
It can't be!
Oh, it's hair. Nobody else has red hair like that. My breathing stopped for certain. Settled in the white was the familiar color of chestnut, a clump of hair. I knew who it belonged to immediately, and what made it more unsettling still was the second color present. Dark red. Blood.
This is Watson's hair. It is, isn't it?
When I didn't respond, the tears bubbling from her grew ready to overflow. I must stay calm. I won't be of any help if I let fear win the battle. It'll be all right, Hudson. I steadied my voice as best as I could and placed my hand on her shoulder. This means they're using Watson as a hostage to force Holmes to come to them, so they'll have to be delicate with him.
But that's blood on his hair, isn't it?
You and I know what an ox he is. A bit of blood won't be enough to hurt him. And remember, Holmes has gone to fetch him, so the two will be home and all smiles in no time.
I suppose you're right, but I can't help it, Emily.
I could not blame her. I knew very well how fanciful my words sounded. What on earth was Holmes thinking by going alone? Was it the danger? Did he not want to chance anyone else's safety? Or did he think I would be a hindrance to his efforts? It was a pitiful thought, but the more the possibility lingered, the more the morning's tears threatened to come right back. I want to help him, even if my effort is small. I want to save them. But what if trying to help results in something worse? Determination became hesitation, swirling around and tightening my throat in a grip that made it difficult to speak. Was this the most I could do?
I want to ask you a favor, Emily.
Hudson?
Please, save Watson. No! Save both of them! You're right. Watson is an ox, and Holmes is strong in his own right. We've seen how they are. But their strength alone isn't going to cut it. They need you. Holmes needs you.
Why?
Holmes has a talent for knowing when others are lying, but he's just awful at telling them himself. All I said was that we should tell someone, and what did he say? Not to tell you whilst he was in a panic. That says just how much you're on his mind, doesn't it?
I can't imagine that was why he mentioned me. I'm more involved with this than most others, so it's only natural to
Oh! This is all Holmes's fault for not being nice enough to you. You were so strong, and he's molded you into this meek lamb. Oh, he's a first-rate detective, we all know that. But I ought to tell him off for being a second-rate gentleman.
Me? A meek lamb? Hudson,
Pardon me, my lady.
Oh, how did you sneak in here? Students only. Although, to be fair, Hudson is also here. But students only.
Dang, she called him out, though. I had no idea how long Pendleton was behind me, but if he happened to be there a while, he only chose now to speak. How did he even enter the grounds? He didn't look the least bit like a student. He's got special papers.
There you are. You're the girl trespassing, I presume.
Then are you the man trespassing, Pendleton?
The guards at the gate were in quite a frenzy after an unidentified girl skipped along past them, so I offered to search for her.
And they just let you out of the kindness of their hearts?
They're not mad with me, are they?
They are not, but I cannot approve of entering private property without permission, even if your reason for doing so does concern Holmes and Watson's safety.
You overheard, then?
You'll have to forgive me, my lady. And with overhearings being done with, I must ask, what is your answer?
Answer? To the favor?
Indeed. I should like to know what course of action you've chosen.
What exactly prompted you to be here today? Like, are you always here? Like, every day she's been at school? Or did you just happen to pick today for a specific reason? I know Holmes was like, you should have him guarding you and stuff, but I got that sus still on Pendleton. Pendleton watched me with a directness I had difficulty returning. I've hesitated too much for my liking. Turned a blind eye when I should have looked straight on. I know myself well enough to know that isn't the type of person I am, and I know precisely what I want to do. I don't want this to be our last goodbye. If I'm afraid to lose someone I love, then there's only one thing to do. I want to help Holmes, and I need your support, Pendleton.
Then I have two conditions for doing so.
Pendleton continued as if the answer were expected. Please come along with me and bring your gun.
1. I am to remain by your side at all hours until this case has seen its end. 2. Upon its end, you must never meet with Holmes alone under any circumstances.
Why the second?
Will you honor these two conditions?
Yes, I absolutely will. And I meant it. It was time for my resolve to become that of diamonds. Dang. She's like, if I never have to see him again, but I know he's safe, that's all that matters to me. Girl loves that boy.
As you wish, my lady. I apologize for speaking out of turn.
So he said, but I could see the smile upon his lips.
From this moment on, I will aid you as best I'm able. And to that end, there is something important I must alert to you at once.
What is it?
We seem to have an audience. Those three over there.
Oh! Hello! Good God! He spotted us! How?
Because you've been making so much noise, Kobayashi. Oh, it isn't that. He must have known we were here all along.
Well!
What are you doing here? You were behaving very curiously, so we thought to follow. Quite a sight this is.
We did feel guilty eavesdropping, but you seemed disturbed by something. Right, Akachi?
Indeed. And as class representative, it wouldn't do to overlook the welfare of a schoolmate. You're going to rescue Holmes and Watson, aren't you, Emily? Marple's gaze was fixed upon me. I am. Then I shall assist you.
Of course. Oh, but you can't.
We'll help too. I bet we'll be 100 times more useful than any officer will.
There's a restless air about the classroom with those two absent. Were it to grow any more tense, we could have a problem on our hands.
Do you know where Holmes even went? Perhaps.
Emily, I can't be certain this will help narrow down where they've gone, but I have a thought. After Holmes read the letter, he mentioned a swaling. Do you know what that word means?
Oh, Baron Swaling is a famous figure in the world of finance. He's president of a bank and is known to be a superbly charitable man. All the newspapers hold a very high opinion of him.
Wait, Akachi. That's not the same bank as ours, is it?
What do you mean?
This concerns a request that was made to us. I ask that you not relay a word of this to anyone. We were tasked to investigate them on behalf of a banking company whose employees have come under frequent attack. Even their clients have reportedly become victims of theft.
We'd found that the one who stood to benefit the most from the company going under was Baron Swaling and his bank. He's also been making frequent trips to inspect a certain stone processing plant in the city. That's nothing unusual, but what is unusual is that he always takes a massive amount of money with him.
It certainly baffled us at first. Why would a man of his status travel unaccompanied with so much to lose? Yet with this information, the pieces have all but fallen in place. Miss Whiteley, regardless of what decision you make, we will act to fulfill the task given to us. It just so happens that our goals have aligned on this occasion.
And if we want the same thing, we may as well work as a team. 2 birds, 1 stone and all that.
Oh, thank you. You're all so dear.
Might you ready a carriage for us, Pendleton?
Right away.
Do you think we'll be able to catch up to Holmes?
That won't be an issue, my lady. Just make certain you inform the Academy staff that you will be taking an early leave.
Very well. Well, now we know where we're going, I have something I must take care of by myself.
Really? Where are you going, Marple?
We're quite capable on our own, yes, but none of us had the authority to arrest anyone, do we? I should like to telephone the professionals.
Splendid. Now, let's do this right and with care.
With our course nearly clear, the remaining party left whilst Hudson and Marple set off towards the stone processing plant near Hampton Court Park.
Dang, got a whole team together. Black-clad man. They all sound the same.
What's this? You really came alone?
You said to come alone, and so I am here. Ensnaring me and my father wasn't enough, was it? You had to do the same to Watson.
The area in which Holmes stood was Hampton Court Park, reached by following the Thames upstream and heading west across London. Holmes's destination had been a processing plant for stone in that area of the city. Yet the fog had been thick around him, resulting in a misstep. He strayed from the road, and the severity of his mistake made itself evident when he was surrounded by spellbound's rank-and-file members.
Are you that concerned for your assistant? Rest easy, then. He is alive, for now.
And where might he be?
That's a topic for a later time. He's alive, as will you be when we escort you to Colonel Moran. Your timing is rather apt. It's only a matter of time before the contract signing with Swaling is complete, so he's sure to be in good spirits. Your friend may not be entirely in one piece when you reunite with him, but you'll have to forgive any tantalizing indiscretions on our part.
He's that close to signing the agreement, is he?
Now, a query for you, Holmes. Which is your dominant arm? Right? Left? Or shall I crush both arms to bits? Your father cost Colonel Morin the use of his sniping arm. Retribution is in order.
Bah. What your boss suffered at the hands of my father means nothing to me. Take that nonsense up with him, not me.
When I speak with you, I begin to understand how the Colonel feels. I want to make bloody rags out of you. To see an impudent child like you driven beyond grief, humiliation, and anguish.
Dang, dude. The man aimed his pistol directly at Holmes.
I've no interest in being made to shoulder father's debts. And I have no time to waste with someone who thinks the burden is mine either.
With a calculated slothfulness, as if he took joy in watching dead men squirm, the man pressed his finger against the trigger.
Holmes, get down!
What the devil?
Holmes reflexively dived to the ground, and not a moment too soon, for as he did, he heard a series of bangs so loud they nearly ruptured his eardrums. Ow. Yeah! Go Kobayashi.
Get to it, Akachi!
Alright, got the cape and everything. This is so great.
I knew well enough without the reminder.
Kobayashi tossed as many firecrackers as he could hold into the surrounding area, freezing his enemies to the spot. The speed of Akachi's blade was but a passing glint to each of them.
What are you
We'll explain later.
You brats! How dare! Gah!
At last, there was the sound of a gunshot, but it was not from the man who intended to fire first. Upon the firing and a sharp clank, his own gun went flying out of his hand.
I believe that will do for you.
Shit! I've given everything I have in support of Colonel Morin! You...
Spare your excuses for the man himself. I'm not interested.
Gah!
Holmes buried his fist into the man's abdomen, causing him to collapse to the ground before he could speak. Good shooting, dude.
My apologies. My aim was slightly crooked. I'd intended to aim for his dominant hand to match the superior he so reveres, but alas.
Are you all right, Holmes? Are you hurt?
Miss Whiteley, what in God's name are you all doing here?
What do you think? We're here to save Watson!
We heard an interesting something from Miss Whiteley as well. Specifically, that if we can capture Spellbound and the Baron at the scene of their contract signing, we can prove you and your father's innocence. And as it happens, arresting Baron Swaling is part of the case Kobayashi and I are currently pursuing.
When I thought that you may have been captured by Colonel Morin too, I couldn't stay home in comfort and wait. And we made it. I'm so glad you're safe.
Miss Whiteley.
I'm so glad. Holmes's eyes seemed to quiver briefly with emotion before he collected himself.
You fret for naught. To allow oneself to be captured is a perfectly valid tactic.
When they have Watson as a hostage? As long as that holds true, charging into enemy territory unprepared is folly. Watson is dear to you, isn't he? Then we can't afford to make mistakes. And I want to be a part of that, so please, Holmes. Don't leave me. Don't leave us behind again. No doubt Holmes was used to rejecting the many hands extended to him. I would not accept the same rejection. His suffering alone became now mine, and I could no longer carry its weight. Holmes closed his eyes. His brow was now heavily wrinkled. It wasn't because he was angry. I knew him well enough to recognize it as the same expression he always wore when trying to work out an answer within himself. I spent enough time with him to know all his faces.
I believe in my own capabilities.
When he opened his eyes again, he did not face me, but kept his gaze steadfastly downwards.
I believe that in times of need, it is my own skill that I can rely on most. But right now, I wish to believe in all of you the way I believe in myself. So I'll do just that.
The answer had been found. When he lifted his chin to meet eyes with each of us one after the other, we were introduced to a new glow in him. A fire that had not been present before. A brilliant resolve.
The road to victory is open to us. In order to rescue Watson and prove the innocence of myself and my father, I must ask each of you, please help me!
His earnestness was in the strength of his shoulders, which stood strong against nerves, the slight pursing of his lips which waited with hope, his flushed cheeks which grew redder still with the need for an answer. Holmes had changed in a way that made him beautiful to me. He always presented himself with confidence alone, but there was a radiance he earned upon learning that help was not a sign of weakness.
Holmes!
You want help? Capital! We were going to help even if you said no.
We all want the same thing, and together we'll see it through.
Perhaps then becoming conscious of how he had done something unlike him, the flush of his cheeks twisted into something less earnest and more embarrassed. He looked to me last.
What about you, Miss Whiteley?
Holmes, do you mind if I stay with you? There was still that dark murkiness I carried upon the question, but I could wonder why I feared for his answer, or I could do as I did. Stand tall and ask.
Don't be daft. Looking to anyone else for that answer will do you no favors. You ought to decide for yourself who you wish to stay with.
Well, if that's how it has to be, then I will. Holmes hardened at the response, attempting to resume his usual demeanor. But he can no longer trick me. The radiance of his was too rich to disguise.
Silly question, Pendleton, but why does she look so happy when he's being so rude?
Why, indeed.
You'll understand when you're older. At the time, Pendleton had been occupied with the belongings of the now collapsed man who engaged Holmes. After a minor investigation, he rose to his feet and revealed his findings.
My lady, Holmes, please take this. Is this a map?
It is, and I speculate it's showing us where the contract is to be signed.
How convenient.
We organized for the unconscious men to be retrieved by Scotland Yard before setting off towards the processing plant. The area was still. With no guards of any kind to hinder us, or even a mouse to signal any life, we slinked into a storage room.
There's no guarantee Watson will be in the same place as the signing. Let's divide ourselves into two groups. One to apprehend the criminals, and one to search for Watson. Do you have a preference, Miss Whiteley?
You're to pursue Colonel Morin, correct? I should like to obtain proof of Spellbound's involvement personally, so I want to look for the place of the signing.
Very well. With me, then.
The more time passed, the more concerned I was for Watson's well-being. I pray Watson is safe.
I'm certain he is. After all...
He still makes a useful hostage. Was that what you were going to say?
What? The voice seemed to pulsate into the room from nothing. Worse, our senses, keen as we had hoped them to be in this situation, had failed to warn us of Spellbound's many members circling in.
Well, if it isn't Holmes Jr., what does a man suspected of murder want with us, I wonder? Shall I greet you as welcome guests? Or must I bring the belt on our intruders the Spellbound way?
You're...
A blonde-haired man stepped into the scene with an airy elegance. He was well-groomed and dressed in a military uniform that equipped a saber to his waist, all fitting for one whose severe features reflected that of a cold man. Coldest of all, however, were his eyes, the piercedness of which felt as talons. They were the eyes of a hawk staring down its prey, or the dulled eyes of a soldier who had engraved far too many atrocities to memory.
Well then, you were liberated.
Heh. Is your father well, Holmes Jr.?
Who knows? Your guess is as good as mine.
What a horrible thing for a son to say.
So, are you satisfied with him in jail?
Do I look satisfied to you?
Colonel Morin's lips conveyed joy, but those eyes did not. They were glassed by a fire, a limitless wrath no amount of skill could hide.
Compared to what Sherlock Holmes has gifted me, his suffering is but a shilling tossed in the river. I am far from satisfied. And to that end, you're going to be of great use to me as my puppet. Naturally, you don't have the right to refuse.
Then I shall make a request of you as well, then. Tell me where Watson is.
What is it about witnessing the desperation of youth that puts a smile on my face? Perhaps the answer lies in my love of hunting. The more desperate my prey is as they flee, the more excited I become. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, those who fall to glory are those desperate to the point of idiocy. What matters most on both the hunt and battlefield is passion and time.
What are you babbling on about?
What's that sound? The mechanical clicking of machinery in motion could suddenly be heard around us.
I would be remiss if I did not mention that very soon this entire factory will begin routine operation.
With every new clack, the area outside the storeroom seemed to thunder ever more boisterously with noise.
Your dearest assistant will be in... I shall call it an unfortunate position once everything is fully operational for the day. What does fate have in store for him? Being cut to pieces? Drowned? Burnt alive? Melted to his bones? Whichever it is, it'll be a difficult sight for you, I'm sure.
No!
If you want to save him, you'd best hurry. Just be aware that the hunt is in motion. We won't have you scampering off now that we have you in our playground. I've said my piece. Now show me what your passion gains you.
Colonel Morin then turned to the rest of Spellbound's members.
I have something to attend to. Take care of the situation here.
And so upon his command did the underlings draw their weapons and charge.
Go and search for Watson. We've no time to waste.
Akachi,
We will handle this rabble. Kobayashi, assist me.
Ready and willing! Go ahead, Holmes! One of us needs to save Watson! Ah!
One of the assailants collapsed in pain as a round from Kobayashi's slingshot smacked him.
right!
With the blessings of our allies, we continued. Pendleton, I must ask you to take care of something.
Is this urgent, my lady?
Quite. You see... ... After parting ways with Pendleton, Holmes and I alone were in a rush to find Watson. Must have been very urgent for Pendleton to leave her alone with him.
Colonel Morin said he was going to have Watson moved inside this factory.
There can only be so many paths that lead within from the outside, right?
Indeed. We'll simply have to find the right one before they take him.
Though the fog made searching in detail a trying task, we paced from entrance to entrance in hopes for any sign of our friend. Pacing, checking, pacing again, scrutinizing, and pacing again. Watson! Our thoroughness was soon rewarded when we spotted Watson being dragged by several members of Spellbound. The sight was appalling. He was unconscious. His legs, chest, arms, and all were tightly bound with rope. The most unsettling part of the sight was the blood soaking his shoulders and head. He's badly hurt! We need to rescue him before it's too late!
Miss Whiteley, I should like you to wait here for 3 minutes.
Why 3? Wait! Holmes! Before I could finish asking, Holmes barreled before Watson's captors. Holmes! What are you...
You, Holmes? This a bleedin' joke? You think you can take on the whole lot of us alone? Don't forget that we have a hostage.
Your beloved assistant!
Yes, I'm aware. Now, if you don't mind, he and I have business. If he can ever be asked to wake up from his lazy catnap.
Huh? What do you mean?
You listen here, Holmes.
Huh?
You watch who you're calling lazy!
Proving not to be unconscious after all, Watson bolted upright and headbutted the man who was talking to send him skidding across the ground.
What? Ah!
Watson? Should he be doing that with those injuries?
How can you be conscious?
Certainly, the men were as shocked as I was to see him healthy as can be.
You have my compliments for playing a nearly dead man so well. By your standards, at least.
Ah!
Holmes's fist made contact with the man's jaw as it arced upwards.
I put a good bit of effort into that blood. Rather proud with the results, too.
Nice. Good job, my boyo. I mean, I was thinking going into this, either that's not Watson, or Watson has disguised himself to look more brutalized than he actually is, because this whole episode has been about disguise, so... There you go. The rope which bound Watson loosened with little effort.
Well now, I'd say I'm ready to have a turn with him. Let's put our backs into this, Holmes!
His arms now free, Watson broadened his shoulders and readied himself for a true brawl.
Of course. You'll need to make up for all that rusting.
It was as if they planned this all along. The two, with their backs against one another intuitively, were assured a fast victory. Could it be that he was never injured at all? He had me fooled! When I had first seen those hairs of his, anxiety and fear swept over me at such a rate that I didn't have the presence of mind to consider any other such possibility.
And I wouldn't be too proud of that blood if I were you. The sample on that clump of hair wasn't nearly muddy enough in color. And where was the iron? Not anywhere I could smell it. Oh, I'm sure you believed it for a minute or two. More like a second.
The two of them made short work of all the spellbound members in the area, all the while squabbling about absolutely pointless things. As they do. This is quite a sight. I've never seen them act so much as one before.
Oh! You could have unbound me more gently. I'm afraid we haven't the luxury of time, Watson. Between dodging our enemy's onslaught and making quick work of them in turn, your comfort is quite low on my list of concerns.
Holmes! Watson! The moment the fight was done, I ran and threw my arms around both of them in the tightest hug I could muster. Thank God you're well! I didn't know what to think when I saw the state you were in.
I'm sorry. I hadn't meant to worry you. Huh. That was precisely 3 minutes. Well done.
Holmes returned my worry with the sweetest, broadest smile. Wha!